Tonight, the Liberals promise billions in new spending by hiking taxes on the rich.
We are acting today to ensure fairness for every generation.
A big-ticket new housing program in a budget targeting young voters.
Something has to be done.
The plan to turn old offices into homes and build millions of homes fast.
I think we have to be realistic here.
The politics at play. At issue standing by as we break down what the budget means for you. She paid $8,000 for cataract surgery covered by Ontario's health plan.
People are blindly, excuse the pun, being ripped off.
Why advocates say for-profit clinics are charging unfair fees. Double doubles, Timbits, and now pizza?
I can't wait, man. Pizza? That'll be good, right?
The challenge for Tim Hortons as it tries to move beyond breakfast.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemensing.
After more than a week of previews, the federal budget was unveiled today with billions in new spending and a goal to make life easier for younger Canadians. Tonight, we have extensive coverage on how the budget will affect your life and finances.
We're driving the kind of economic growth that will ensure every generation of Canadians can reach their full potential.
This budget features nearly $53 billion in new spending over 5 years. The focus was overwhelmingly on housing and affordability, with a goal of nearly 4 million new homes by 2031 and loans aimed at creating more than 100,000 new rental units. As for how to pay for all of this, the Liberals are introducing a tax hike specifically on capital gains, like the sale of a second home. They say doing that will only affect 0.13% of Canadians, but it's expected to generate $19.3 billion in revenue. We begin with Ashley Burke on where that money's going and why this budget is earning mixed reviews.
This budget is about fairness for every generation.
With billions of dollars in promises already made to win back younger voters, the finance minister revealed how she plans to pay for it.
We're making Canada's tax system more fair by ensuring that the very wealthiest pay their fair share.
Chrystia Freeland targeting 40,000 of the richest Canadians. The idea? To tax them more on capital gains over $250,000 a year, like their profit on selling a second property.
Today, it is possible for a nurse or a carpenter to pay tax at a higher marginal rate than a multi-millionaire. That's not fair.
All capital gains earned by 300,000 companies and trusts will be hit too. That new revenue is pegged at bringing in more than $19 billion over the next 5 years. But economists are skeptical it will actually work.
Individuals that will pay, consultants, tax consultants, in order to identify the best ways to distribute their wealth across the globe in order to diminish their tax.
Those taxes would help top up a housing accelerator fund, fast-track construction on rental apartments, and free up government land like these old Defense Department buildings and Canada Post properties to help build nearly 4 million new homes by 2031. There isn't a path to balancing the budget, but the government plans to cut the deficit in half in 5 years.
Conservatives will vote against this wasteful inflationary budget that is like a pyromaniac spraying gas on the inflationary fire that he lit.
The NDP says it's disappointed the Liberals aren't doing more to tackle corporate greed.
While we fought for certain things in the budget that are very important, that are going to give relief to people, we have some serious concerns.
Actually, there's disappointment in this budget for some Canadians who are on disability.
Yeah, Ian, disability groups and the NDP are upset about the new federal disability benefit. The government has been promising this since 2020. It was supposed to help lift people with disabilities out of poverty, but we learned it won't start going out until July 2025, and the maximum people can receive is $200 a month. Advocates called for about $1,000 a month and say that this doesn't cut it. The NDP's leader tonight calling it insufficient too.
Ashley Burke in Ottawa. A big focus for the Liberals tonight, Young Canadians, a group that has helped them get elected in the past but has since shifted its support. Olivia Stefanovich looks at how this budget is aimed at changing that.
Liberals say they're speaking to millennials and Gen Z, but do they hear them?
I'm amazed at how much things have gone up and how everyone's struggling.
The housing crisis is a big one.
Young voters could be of particular consequence. They helped this government get elected in the first place. Now they're needed again.
It is just harder to establish yourself right now if you are a younger Canadian.
The federal government is promising to even the playing field for those born between 1981 and 2012.
You know, I've heard so many people say, I did all the right things. I studied really hard. I got a good job. I work hard at that good job, and still things don't seem to be working out. And to me, it's about saying, as a country, we have to fix that.
The federal budget includes tens of billions of dollars of new spending targeted to younger generations, including more childcare spaces, job opportunities, student aid, and a slew of housing measures to build almost 4 million new homes.
It does more than any budget has done recently to acknowledge that young people are really struggling.
This economist says it's an attempt to reattract the largest demographic of voters.
They are the bona fide sandwich generation. They have to take care of the people that are too young, too old, and too sick to work, and there's not much help for them.
Something has to be done.
Whether this budget does enough, some say it's too soon to know.
It is obviously appealing, but they have been saying that for the past couple of years, and it just seems like it's getting worse.
With up to 18 months until the next federal election, the challenge for the government remains how to close a widening gap in the polls now that the generations that put the Liberals in office appear to be leaving the party in droves. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Let's bring in our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton. And Rosie, this budget, of course, aimed at attracting voters like the ones Olivia just mentioned. What else is the budget trying to do?
Ian, as well as those younger voters who were so important to the Liberals back in 2015 and heavily targeted in this budget, there's another maybe broader group of people the budget's speaking to, and that is so-called progressives. Polls suggest right now that some NDP supporters, who the Liberals are trying to win over, are instead moving to the Conservatives, to the right. They've been talking a lot about the working class, with some success, clearly. So take, for instance, that increase in the capital gains tax that's very much aimed at NDP supporters and progressive who believe that tax fairness matters. This is a budget Conservatives don't like, and that's fine for the Liberals. They want that contrast between them to become even clearer.
And so what's the biggest challenge now?
Quite simply, delivering. The government is up against that electoral clock. There's a lot of measures, particularly in housing, that Canadians are not going to see right away. The other questions that Canadians can, I think, rightfully ask themselves is, why weren't some of these measures in place before? The housing crisis didn't just appear out of nowhere. So the Liberals have, likely about 18 months or so now to start delivering on these things and convincing Canadians that these are the right answers to their problems.
Rosemary Barton, we'll see you later in the program. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ian.
And she'll be joined by the at-issue gang for a special budget night edition. Can the government execute on this budget and sway voters? That's up in about 20 minutes. With so much of the budget devoted to affordability, new figures released today show inflation rising slightly last month, but only slightly. Stats Can reporting the annual Consumer Price Index at 2.9% for March, up from 2.8% in February, largely driven by the rising price of fuel. If you take gas prices out, inflation actually cooled slightly, raising more speculation of an interest rate cut in June. Angry Ontario patients are speaking out tonight after paying hundreds, even thousands of dollars to private, for-profit clinics for procedures already covered by the province. Health advocates call it predatory upselling. Christine Burak explains.
Diagnostic tests, $300 per eye.
Kate Armstrong wants her money back. Legally blind in one eye and barely seeing out of the other in 2022, she says a surgeon at a Toronto hospital told her if she went to his private for-profit clinic, she could get her cataract surgery faster. So she went and signed contracts she could barely see.
How do you ask questions when you can't read?
Armstrong signed off on $1,200 in diagnostic and measurement tests, over $3,000 for her first cataract surgery, and nearly $3,500 for the second, money the province would have paid.
$8,000 is not what I had then, and I had to borrow it, and I had to cash in RRSPs.
Healthcare advocates say a growing number of Ontarians are in the same boat.
All medically needed cataract surgery is covered. Every hospital can handle medically needed cataract surgeries. And if you're being told anything else in a private clinic, that is not the truth.
A single cataract surgery takes roughly 7 minutes. Currently in Ontario, the longest average wait time is 3.5 months. A CBC News investigation found the Ontario government pays public hospitals about $500 per surgery. It pays private clinics up to $1,300 for the same work, so patients should not be charged. Ontario's health minister insists few patients are using their credit cards.
And the numbers show it is a very, very small group that have to have that investigation, ultimately get reimbursed when appropriate, and corrective action is taken.
The most recent Health Canada numbers show for-profit clinics charge Canadians nearly $80 million for medically necessary services.
People are blindly, excuse the pun, being ripped off.
Armstrong won't likely be reimbursed because she signed the contracts. She says the trust she once placed in doctors is gone. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
3 17-year-olds in Manitoba have been arrested for allegedly sexually assaulting 5 rookie hockey players in a disturbing case of hazing. It's alleged to have happened at a Winnipeg hotel on 2 separate tournament trips this past winter. 2 of the accused were arrested for sexual assault with a weapon, sexual assault, and forcible confinement. Police suspect the third of sexual assault and assault. The 5 victims are 15 and 16. Israel standing firm on its promise to retaliate against Iran for Saturday's attack, but still not clear what that response will look like and when it will happen. Chris Brown is in Jerusalem tonight and shows us the complicated politics behind the decision.
Israel's military apparently pulled this intercepted Iranian ballistic missile out of the Dead Sea, putting it on show to demonstrate how much damage it could have done.
We cannot stand still from this kind of aggression.
Iran says it was Israel that actually fired first by killing 2 of its generals in a Syrian diplomatic consulate on April the 1st. And its foreign ministry continues to warn if Israel retaliates, Iran's response will be immediate and severe. But before Saturday night, Iran had never directly hit Israel. And Israel's leaders are now trying to build a case that simply letting it go to de-escalate, as many countries, including the United States, are urging, is not an option. On a visit with new military recruits, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to connect Iran's attack to Israel's now 6-month-long war against Hamas in Gaza. Iran stands behind Hamas, behind Hezbollah, he said. It's part of a much bigger system. This former Israeli diplomat says Netanyahu will do whatever is most likely to keep him in power.
He will be trounced in any election, which is why he's trying to prolong the war in Gaza, which is why he's trying to maintain a war atmosphere via Iran.
For the moment, Iran has shifted the focus off Gaza and the immense criticism Israel has faced for the destruction and suffering it's inflicted. But Alan Pincus doubts Israel can avoid Gaza for long.
If Iran goes away, he gets the accolades for exercising restraint, but then attention goes back to Gaza. He loses. If he attacks Iran, he loses. He's in a no-win situation.
In Tel Aviv, people were anxious, but many also supported a reprisal against Iran.
A targeted strike like that was the best move, and a continued targeted strike is the continued best move.
I believe that if we do violence, it will drag more violence, and I don't believe that we should continue doing so.
Several European foreign ministers are reportedly on their way to Israel to make the case in person that the country should consider the broader strategic issues. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
In southern Lebanon, Israeli strikes killed 3 people today, including a Hezbollah commander. This video, released by the Israeli military, appears to show a drone strike on a moving vehicle. The IDF says it targeted a senior Hezbollah official responsible for planning missile attacks on Israel. Hezbollah also confirmed the death but didn't elaborate. There is shock in Denmark tonight after a massive fire tore through Copenhagen's old stock exchange. The massive 400-year-old building erupted in flames this morning. By this afternoon, it was largely gutted, its iconic spire destroyed. Not clear what caused this fire, but the building was being renovated at the time. Danish officials promise it will be rebuilt. Unusually intense rains drenched parts of the Middle East, causing widespread flooding. Some even had to use boats to get around. Dubai saw a year's worth of rain in just 12 hours. Flash flooding has already killed at least 17 people in neighboring Oman. The UK's plan for one of the world's strictest smoking bans has cleared its first hurdle. It would make it illegal to sell cigarettes to anyone currently aged 15 or under for the rest of their lives. Margaret Evans hit the streets for reaction.
The first smoke-free generation. That's what the British government is hoping its legislation will build if, as expected, it eventually becomes law here. The Tobacco and Vapes Bill seeks to make it illegal for anyone born after January 2009 to buy cigarettes or tobacco.
There is no liberty in addiction. Nicotine robs people of their freedom to choose.
The ayes have it.
The bill easily passed its first full vote at Westminster, despite some high-profile opposition.
The instinct of this establishment is to believe that the government, are better at making decisions for people than people themselves.
There is a Brave New World feel to it and some mixed opinions.
It's a nice idea to create a perfect society, but if you accept that it's not a perfect society that you can breed good habits into, then what are you going to do about it?
Tobacco use is considered the largest preventable cause of death in the United Kingdom. And the idea is, forgive the pun, to stamp out any possibility of children becoming addicted in the first place.
One of the best flavours.
The legislation also targets vaping, aimed at making flavors and packaging less appealing to young people.
That's entice younger generation to...
Shop owner Thuy Nguyen says she got into the vape business to help people get away from cigarettes. She backs efforts to protect children from both, but worries a complete ban will make it more attractive.
Anything you make forbidden, people want. So kids will want it more. They want to, use someone else's ID, try and find ID that they're not, there's always a way around it.
About 60% of people here are said to favor phasing out tobacco. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Tim Hortons will soon be serving up something new alongside its coffee, donuts, and sandwiches.
I can't wait, man. Pizza? That'll be good, right?
What's behind the new addition to the menu? Next. Plus, Team Canada's new look for the Paris Olympics.
I want to be able to be part of that history, be a small part of that history.
The excitement building 100 days out. And new housing and new spending in today's federal budget.
This new revenue will help make life cost less for millions of Canadians.
At Issue breaks down the promises and the politics. We're back in 2. A major update tonight on last year's brazen $20 million gold heist at Pearson Airport. Police say they'll announce arrests in that case tomorrow, exactly 1 year after the crime. The news conference will include American officials cooperating in a joint task investigation. CBC News has confirmed the announcement is directly related to an alleged international arms trafficking operation. Tim Hortons is trying to grab a slice of the fast food dinner market. The coffee chain is rolling out new menu items tomorrow, and as Thomas Dagla shows us, it's a far cry from donuts and coffee.
That Toronto Maple Leafs legend who once opened a donut shop couldn't have predicted the latest offering from the chain bearing his name.
I can't wait, man. Pizza? That'll be good, right?
Tim Hortons Pizza. served hot on flatbread with bacon and other toppings, rolling out across Canada, with Tim's promising to install new ovens and to prepare the item in-house.
When they add more stuff, too much on the menu, I feel the quality goes down.
Plenty has changed since the Hockey Hall of Famer himself opened this location 60 years ago. Now Tim Hortons is making a push to attract more customers later in the day and into the evening. Just ask delivery driver Kathan Parik till what time he typically makes Tim's runs.
Usually it's just the morning orders we get from Tim Hortons. It's rarely in the afternoon. We get it at maximum 11:30, then Tim Hortons is dead.
The brand's owner faces pressure from some franchisees, complaining of lower than expected profits. But new menu items haven't always gone over well.
We know you love your double doubles just the way they are. That's why we've changed things and are giving you something nobody asked for.
Consider 5 years ago those plant-based burgers, and before that Tim's short-lived beef lasagna casserole. Now comes stiff competition for fast food pizza.
We did do a menu reduction exercise before we embarked on launching some of these new platforms and new products. And also we sort of have a rule of one in, one out.
McDonald's Canada famously tried serving pizza, but it slowed the drive-through line. Tim's insists this won't do that, but
if they're unable to deliver on that quick promise, I think they have some potential for risk.
Small double cup.
It's another break from tradition for a multinational giant that's still considered a donut shop. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
There were some big names on hand today to get a first glimpse of what Team Canada will be wearing at the Olympics in Paris this summer.
I remember the first time I put it on, I was so proud to be a Canadian.
Why Canadian athletes are so excited about the upcoming Games. Plus, it's Budget Day in Ottawa, and the Liberals are spending billions on promises aimed at younger voters.
We are acting today to ensure fairness for every generation.
The 9th deficit after the Prime Minister promised the budget would balance itself.
Rosie will be here with that issue to break down the politics behind the budget. And many of the budget promises aim to fix Canada's housing crisis. But will it work? Peter Armstrong will be here with a reality check. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next.
To win it,
The Olympic torch was lit in the birthplace of the Games today, 100 days from the start of Paris 2024. The traditional ceremony kicking off the relay journey of the torch through Greece and France, culminating with the lighting of the Olympic flame in the French capital on July 26th. More than 10,000 torchbearers will take part in the relay. The countdown to Paris continues tomorrow on CBC Morning Live on CBC News Network and on your local morning shows on CBC Radio and CBC Listen. And with just 100 days to go, Team Canada unveiling what it will be wearing for the Paris Games. It's the first summer collection in the Olympic Committee's partnership with Lululemon. And as Jamie Strachan shows us, athletes are gearing up to go for gold.
Here you can see
fresh duds for a big moment.
I'm wearing the closing ceremony kits. I mean, the Aurora Lights, Northern Lights on them. They're really dope.
And big expectations as Team Canada gears up for Paris.
I want to be able to be part of that history, be a small part of that history. And that's why for me, the Olympics is a big tournament, big event for me.
One of Canada's biggest names in sports on hand.
Whether it's swimming, bike riding, hockey, basketball, it's so unique, so special. I remember the first time I put it on, I was so proud to be a Canadian.
These Olympics are the first in a while without the heavy cloud of COVID. In Beijing and Tokyo, there were no fans, no family, leaving some athletes feeling robbed of their Olympic moment. A mixture of familiar and fresh faces on Team Canada hope to have more of those moments in Paris.
And Alexiak has done it!
In the pool, Canada's most decorated Olympian, Penny Alexiak, returns. And Summer McIntosh, who was just 14 in Tokyo, continues to dazzle, smashing multiple records.
I always love swimming under big crowds. The amount of adrenaline you get from that is always a fun experience. So, yeah, I'm really excited and looking forward to it.
On the track, Damian Warner will try and defend his decathlon gold.
He's got the gold medal!
Sprinter Andre de Grasse will try and reach the podium for a third straight games. He won gold in Tokyo.
To win it for Canada!
The women's soccer team also looks to defend its gold.
From the halfway line!
And the men's and women's basketball team both qualified. In Tokyo, Canada reached the podium 24 times.
We'd certainly like to eclipse that number. That's always the goal. Ask any athlete, any team, they want to do better.
So Canada will undoubtedly look good. How they perform, what really matters. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to go deeper into the news shaping our world. On this federal budget day, Rosemary is here with a special edition of At Issue.
At issue this week, a federal budget with a focus on housing and affordability and a tax hike aimed at rich people and corporations.
We're driving the kind of economic growth that will ensure every generation of Canadians can reach their full potential. And we're making Canada's tax system more fair by ensuring that the very wealthiest pay their fair share.
The Conservatives say the budget won't help economic growth and won't support it.
Conservatives will vote against this wasteful inflationary budget that is like a pyromaniac spraying gas on the inflationary fire that he lit.
Hi there, I'm Rosemary Barton here for a special Tuesday At Issue to break down the federal budget. Chantal Lebert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. We saw each other earlier today. I'm glad you're back to talk more about the budget and what it was intended to do. So maybe let's start with that. This was trying to win back support. Andrew, I'll start with you on that, particularly from younger Canadians. Is there enough meat in there to do that?
Well, so much of it has been telegraphed already, of course, or not just telegraphed, but revealed and released prior to the budget. So that had the benefit for them of allowing them to have several days of news coverage about it. But the downside of it is when you actually get to the big day itself, not a lot of that is going to be terribly surprising. There is a number of items on the housing front, and if you add it all up, it adds up to a fair degree of support on that, but nothing like, nevertheless, what's going to be required. So even if you accept the government's numbers, they're going to increase pardon me, housing by 1.2 million more units. That's about a third of what the CMHC said they needed to do to actually bring back some measure of affordability. So there's so much more still to be done. I think the biggest failure, though, on the budget front is on the growth front, which affects not just young people, but everybody. If we don't have a faster growing economy, we're not going to be able to afford anything. And there's virtually nothing in this budget that will actually raise levels of investment of the kind that we need to get higher productivity and higher growth rates. I think that's the biggest failure.
Well, what about the AI and the tax credits for EV vehicles, all that kind of stuff? That's there, but it's not enough, is your point?
It's great for shuffling things around. It diverts capital and investment into those favorite sectors at the expense of other sectors. There's nothing there. What you need is higher rates of investment generally, not just in the government's pet sectors.
Okay. Chantal.
Of course, Justin Trudeau's not going to be running against Andrew Coyne, as last I checked, in the next election. He's going to be running against Pierre Poilievre, whose growth plan for the economy is still a work in progress. So we'll see how the two stack up. I think, by and large, I'm going to talk about the politics of this budget.
Yes.
By keeping, most people keep track of, are we spending too much? Is the deficit going up? And for sure, the opposition, the Conservatives, expected to be saying, look, she said last fall 40 billions and now it's almost 50. That didn't happen through tax hikes in part, but also through better revenues. So the government made the choice to spend more, but managed to keep that number at the same level. Politically, that's good comms. Every time you say, as you have just said, and as I've read in I don't know how many headlines, tax the rich, I think that's a good headline for the Liberals. Okay. It sends the message, oh yeah, they're going after the fat cats. That's not totally true, by the way, but it works. And there's also somewhere in there a gift or a way to try to fend off some of the carbon tax attack of Pierre Poilievre in the shape of rebates to small businesses for the carbon tax that they've been paying in the provinces where it applies the federal carbon pricing scheme since it was introduced. That's a nice rebate, by the way. Yeah. And it does blunt Poilievre's crusade with a certain segment of the voting population that does have some influence on people who vote.
Althea, your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm going to get into the weeds. The government says that they would be building almost 4 million units by 2031. Like, their housing plan is incredibly ambitious.
Yes.
$8.1 billion is basically the same amount of money that they plan to spend on defense in the next 5 years. It's a lot of money. Frankly, it's more ambitious than I thought it would be. It's more ambitious than what they announced. There's so many programs, it's hard to keep them straight. There's more than 23 different line items in their new housing plan. But when it comes to the carbon price, I'm not sure that this return of the money to small business, which they said they were going to do in 2019, is going to weigh in their own favor, because I don't think the program design has been carefully thought out. If you own a corner store and you hire 20 full-time people, and the corner store on the other block hires 40 part-time people, they'll get twice as much money as you will. Like, I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked when this budget goes line by line at committee. I will say, I think it is an ambitious budget. It's also an incredibly risky budget. What we have learned through this Liberal government is that international events can come and shock you, whether that's Donald Trump's election in 2016. Now we're facing the possibility of another Trump election, perhaps, in the fall, and a promise that a U.S. president has made to slap on 10% tariff on everything. There might be a war in the Middle East. There is no reserve fund. They're spending all of the money. They have no room to maneuver. That's, to me, maybe I'm too risk adverse, but I find that really risky.
So, Andrew, what is the biggest problem? I mean, obviously you're very concerned about growth and productivity, but what is the missing piece here that would have made this better for them in a policy perspective, but also politically?
Well, as I mentioned, the reason why our workers are not as productive as workers in other countries is they don't have as much capital to work with. We need to get radically higher rates of investment. Right now, we're not even having enough investment to replace the investment we're losing to depreciation. So the capital stock is actually shrinking. This is unheard of. So, you know, there's been, I think, a growing awareness in the public, amongst commentators in the news media, et cetera, that this is a serious crisis. It's a serious crisis not just because we're falling behind other countries, but because we've got the aging population and the costs that go with that.
Yeah.
For the federal government, if you look now at interest costs and the payments to the elderly and transfers to the provinces for health care, it's eating us alive. Those three items are just taking an ever-expanding share of the budget. So between a slow economy and these rising costs, we've got to do something on this. And there is almost nothing, as I say, beyond throwing money at the usual subsidies and tax credit schemes, et cetera. You're not going to move a $3 trillion economy by spraying money at a few favored sectors. You need to get every manager at every business, 1.4 million businesses across the country, you'd need to be incentivizing every single one of them to be lying awake at night saying, what can I do tomorrow to make my business run faster and more productive.
And while those things are all important, the budget is not actually targeting any of the people on this panel, right? It is targeting young people who Liberals believe that they can bring back into the fold. Chantal?
Yeah, well, except that when you're targeting young people, and I was speaking to people who have young people as children today, as it happens, you're also talking to their parents who are worried about how their kids are ever going to find a home for themselves and go on from there. So you're not just talking to young people. You're also, for all of Andrew's criticism, there is yet to be on the scene something more serious on offer. And Pierre Poilievre so far has been doing great on populism and slogans, as he did today, and a carbon tax election, which I think Andrew would agree, it doesn't contain a word of a solution for what he talks about. No. So up to a point, the people in the Liberal camp or the conservative progressive camp who are worried about the same issues as Andrew will have to find it in Pierre Poilievre's program and decide he is serious about this, or else maybe decide that the devil they know is not as bad. And I agree with Andrew, this is not the kind of budget that you build a house on. It's the kind of budget that you build an election platform on when you're in difficulty.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. We have yet to hear of a serious growth plan from the Conservatives either. And frankly, I don't think the next election is going to be a carbon tax election. You know, it was sort of peak carbon tax in the last few weeks. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a salient an issue come election time. And if I were the Conservatives, I think the government is more vulnerable on things like growth. We can't pay for anything else if we don't have a growing economy.
30 seconds to you, Althea.
Well, at the risk of being repetitive from what we have said earlier, I do think it is an election budget. It's an election budget that allows for implementation, if they can get implementation right. And this has always been a challenge from this government. There is a lot of things that they're trying, I don't want to say tie Pierre Poilievre's hands, but box him in on some things. Yep. But that depends on them getting those programs out the door. And the record shows that that may not necessarily be possible.
We'll leave it there for a Tuesday night. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on Thursday. Thanks. And with that, I'll throw things back to Ian. He, of course, is in Vancouver.
Thanks, Rosie. Many of today's announcements on housing were already rolled out over the last few weeks. Coming up, Peter Armstrong will be here to break down how much those measures will really help. Can you count on the government's plan to pull Canada out of a housing crisis?
It begins with building more homes at a pace and scale not seen since after the Second World War.
Big promise, big dollars. The new budget pledges $23 billion, $8 billion in new spending over 5 years, plus $15 billion in loans to help companies get things built. Peter Armstrong, our senior business correspondent, joins us from Ottawa. And Peter, there's so many programs for housing in this budget. Is there one here that really moves the needle?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's worth noting there's a bunch of them and that they're pretty varied. You've got the Housing Accelerator Fund, you've got these renter protection, there's a bunch of loan provisions. But the one that I'm focused on is this capital cost allowance program. And I get it. Leave it to me to kind of drill down on the one super wonky program here. But this is actually really cool. It's a revival of an old program from like the 1970s. And that one led to this huge surge of rental housing stock construction. It basically allows home builders to deduct a certain depreciation of expenses over a shorter period of time. What it really does is it allows them to recover more of their costs faster. And I guess when you look at it and then kind of the broader totality of these programs, they really do add to a sense that there is going to be movement, specifically on the rental front. Mike Moffat is one of those guys that's been really ringing the bell on housing for a long time. And he sees good things when it comes to the rental market in Canada. Take a listen.
On the rental side, I'm actually cautiously optimistic we're going to start to see some relief very, very soon, particularly in our college and university towns where we've seen rents go up 10, 15% a year. I think that's going to start to go away. We're going to have less competition in those neighborhoods. So I'm actually cautiously optimistic on the rental side.
One note on that sort of capital cost allowance program, though, is that the original program was coupled with a plan that allowed builders to roll over some of their profits tax-free, so long as that money went into another rental property, and that added to the fueling of the rental boom. That's not included this time. So it really will be interesting to see just how much that portion kind of changes everything.
Much of this, of course, announced ahead of time by the government. Do we have a better sense today of how they plan to pay for all of this?
Yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me, at least, was how much of this money actually comes in the form of loans. That means the money comes back to the federal government. It doesn't add to the deficit. And it kind of gives them more wiggle room in terms of how much all of this leads to, questions about the deficit, questions about the federal books. And it just does give them a little bit, frankly, more wiggle room.
Adding to the housing supply, in other words, building, is a long-term project, usually doesn't move very quickly. When can we realistically start to see these initiatives roll out?
Yeah, look, we'll see some of these start to roll out now, but you're right. A lot of this is going to take years to see actual results where people are moving into homes. But look, you got to start somewhere, right? There are some provisions in here that can be felt immediately. You know, leading up to this, we had the waiving of the GST on purpose-built rentals. That's already pushed some projects that were sidelined because of cost back into viability. A lot of these rental protections, they're going to be felt immediately. But none of this is going to mean that home prices are ever going back to where they were 5 years ago, let alone back when, like, my parents were gobbling up cheap housing in this country. So some Canadians are going to have to lower their expectations. Take a listen to this.
We have to be realistic here. Any notion of a very family or a household starting out and owning a single detached home near the core of either Toronto, Vancouver, I don't think that's a really realistic options for them. But I think for them to realize the Canadian dream of owning a home, it will require some adjustments, not going for that backyard single detached home near the core. It might be further away from the core, or it could be a different form of housing. It could be townhome or a condo.
So in the budget, Peter, a lot of money that will be spent. It'll help bring down shelter costs down the road. But does it fuel inflation now?
Yes and no. You know, spending is spending. As you say, it's going to ease shelter costs down the road. But for the moment, you're spending money on supplies. You're hiring labor to build. That is inflationary. But at the same time, as we talked about, a huge portion of this is just loans, which means it's not going to build up the deficit. So it does have some inflationary pressure, to be sure, but not as much as I think a lot of people had been worried about.
Nice to have your analysis, Peter. Thank you.
You bet.
And now let's get a quick preview of our interview with Salman Rushdie. The celebrated author was attacked nearly 2 years ago as he was preparing to give a lecture. Today, he sat down with Nala Ayed, the host of CBC's Ideas, and reflected on the altercation that cost him the use of one hand and his sight in one eye.
I'm just wondering what the strongest image you retain in your mind of the actual attack.
The actual attack? Oh, the strongest image I remain is the sense of my own body lying on the ground in this kind of lake of blood. And that's what I remember. This expanding lake of blood. The strange thing is, the thing I don't remember, the thing I don't have any memory of, is pain.
Interesting.
Even though people who were there and who spoke to the press afterwards said that I was screaming with pain, I have no memory of that at all.
Wow.
And I just think that what happens in the case of like deep shock is that it takes over your senses. You know, so there was this kind of odd disconnect between how I was experiencing the event inside me and how people outside me was seeing that I was experiencing it. So my outside body was yelling and screaming. My inside self was not.
And we'll bring you a lot more of Nala's talk with Salman Rushdie tomorrow on The Breakdown. Up next, two friends turn a damaged business window into a work of art.
My skill is art, so the least I could do is to offer to paint it.
Their generous and creative design in our moment. And it's Alexandria Massey and Kaylee Beecroft showing off their work of art. You can probably spot the fish and olives, all part of a mural for their favorite cocktail bar in Windsor, Ontario. Recently, the bar had a break-in and had to board up a damaged window. When Alexandria and Kaylee saw it, they thought they could make it more appealing, and their creation is our moment.
It's sad to see, a boarded up window. My skill is art, so the least I could do is to offer to paint it.
We got a call from our security system company at about 5:20 in the morning. So we jumped in the car, ran down here, and we found a broken window and some stolen goods.
It was traumatizing, and this never happened to us before.
That night they were launching a new menu, and of course I wanted to go. And I was there, I talked to Mark and Sarah, and I said, hey, would it be okay if I painted over it? The design I came up with was inspired by their menu. To the left, there's a bunch of tinned fish, and they're smiling because they're happy, of course. To the right, we have an oyster, and we also have garlic, and there's olives. In the center, there's an orange slice.
along with some cheese, some snap peas, and along the top there's some wiggly little cocktail glasses that I thought would tie it all together. It took about 2.5 days, about 20 hours in total.
It's heartwarming and shocking. You know, it teaches us a lesson that there's good people out there still.
It is a really cool mural, of course, and as we just heard, it's kind of symbolic of the fact that, you know, community supports community, and it is a sign that there are good people out there. And if you're wondering, yes, the window will be fixed, but that mural is going to be brought inside to be a kind of reminder of a bad moment that actually turned nice. For all of us here at The National, thanks for being with us. You can watch us anytime, anywhere on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. See you tomorrow night.